This is The Terminal Bar by Derek Mahon. The television set hung in its wire net cage, protected from the flung bottles of casual rage, is fetish an icon providing all we want of magic and redemption, routine and sentiment. The year-old tinsels hang where an unclaimed no-hoper trembles. Fly corpses cling to the grimy flypaper. Manhattan snows swarm on star-boxed waters, steam trails from warm subway ventilators. Welcome to the planet, its fluorescent beers buzzing in the desolate silence of the spheres. Slam the door and knock the snow from your shoe. Admit that the vast dark at last defeated you. Nobody found the grail or conquered outer space. Join the clientele, watching itself increase. So I think I'm going to do a little series on Derek Mann. Uh, this is a guy whose poetry was introduced to me um, when I was in Leeds for a semester by one of my professors who himself was a poet. Um, he was sort of casually introduced to me, and I've since been really obsessed with him. I can I can immediately think of two or three poems that I really want to do, and this is probably the first one. Again, in a little series that I'll do. I don't want to get too caught up in sort of what Mann does across all of his poems just yet. Maybe I'll just do this one straight up, and then uh, when I get to another one, maybe I'll talk about some similarities. But what I want to do first is break this into a few chunks. The first is right here. The television set hung in its wire net cage, protected from the flung bottles of casual rage. Um, of course, you have a description of a bar, but we should immediately know that he's doing something more than just describing a bar. Um, when we see words like magic, redemption, routine, and sentiment, what he's describing is what exactly this TV at the bar does. And one of the things it does is it allows for bottles to be sort of flung at it, presumably um, probably during games. There's this line, is it from the Blues Brothers, where they go to play and he's like, "Oh, what's the chicken wire for?" Well, presumably there's this wire net cage surrounding this TV in a bar that people are going to throw things at when they get a little upset. Um, but that the TV also provides, a source of magic and redemption. Um, I think if your team comes from behind, um, has a miraculous victory, whatever, but then also creates something of a routine and some degree of sentiment if you go to the same bar to watch the games. So you have this really, uh, I think it's kind of gritty here at the beginning, and then becomes there's something a little mystical about this description of this bar, this sports bar. The year-old tinsel hang where an unclean no-hoper trembles. Fly corpses cling to the grimy fly paper. Manhattan snows swarm on Starbucks waters. You still have here this description of the bar, and then we know that we're in Manhattan. Uh, it's winter. That might contribute something to our understanding of the setting. So you have this bar in winter um, that we already know is set up a little bit to provide. It's kind of a casual description of a bar, but it provides these really not casual things: magic, redemption, routine, and sentiment. Welcome to the planet. Its fluorescent beers buzzing in the desolate silence of the spheres. slam the door, and knock the snow from your shoe. Um, okay. Buzzing, desolate silence of the spheres. One of the things I love about man is this deep existentialism. There we go. This deep existentialism that he embeds in his poetry, but he always does it sort of within this, I don't know, the mundane, the routine. He's not, well, yeah, he's thinking about big picture, first principle existence questions. He's not divorced from the reality of the world, which, um, at least in this experience, is, you know, presumably guys going to a bar and, you know, finding something at once infuriating, but then also hopeful, redemptive, maybe even delivering in losing yourself in a game. Now, man himself, you get the sense, I should say the speaker, it doesn't really matter. Um, you get the sense, especially towards the end, that there's a there's a frustrated reservation, um, or a frustrated resignation, rather, when he sort of describes the way things are. I think he might want people, on the one hand, people do these things. This is much of people's existence. On the one hand, I think that upsets him. On the other hand, he knows that it's more than just going to a bar. There's something that is like, uh, deeper, that I think is like happening under the surface of these events. But then at the same time, so there's like this redemptive quality to what he's saying. Like, look, it's more than just going to a bar. But then at the same time, you do get the sense that he wishes for something more. Slam the door and knock the snow from your shoe. Admit that the vast dark at last defeated you. So within this bigger picture, whoever you is, maybe it's him walking in, maybe it's you walking into the bar. Um, there's this feeling again of resignation, saying, okay, well, I guess I could think big picture, or I could kind of just lose myself here in this ritual of the bar. Nobody found the grail or conquered outer space. Join the clientele watching itself increase. And this is where I start to really think about the tone and maybe exactly what he wants us to get out of this. Nobody found the grail. Of course, he's talking about capital G Grail, the Holy Grail. I am nowhere near qualified to say exactly what he's referring to. Um, beyond in very short description, um, of course, he's not referring to the actual cup. But if you think about the sort of Catholic tradition, the Holy Grail itself would have been this like redemptive vessel that early Christians, and Christians still drink from. Not the Holy Grail itself, but the idea was that there was this original cup, at the Last Supper, that Jesus and his disciples would have drank it from. That now, in the sort of ritual adaptation of the Catholic Mass, the Holy Grail would have been the original, like, redemptive, vessel, and nobody found it. That is to say, there doesn't seem to be anything that's going to totally deliver us from our existence or this very human situation. Um, and I love this interplay between the Grail and outer space, this sort of like this ancient quest and this very modern quest for deliverance. The ancient quest sort of being more spiritual, and the modern quest being very, very geographic, sort of like this Occupy Mars kind of thing. If we can just get off this planet, perhaps our situation would be different. I'm speaking. I'm speaking something into those lines, but that's at least the gist of my interpretation. Nobody found the Grail. There's no redemption in sort of the ancient practices or the old, you know, pseudoscientific practice of science. That sounded a little more condemning than I meant it to be, but we used to have religion. We now have science. Neither have really delivered us entirely from our situation. Um, and of course, I think we know that they wouldn't, right? Um, or at least now we sort of like, I think you read those two lines and you wonder if you've ever caught yourself thinking that you would be. Um, and in lieu of deliverance from these two things, again, there's this feeling of resignation, at least in the way that I read these last two lines, joy in the clientele watching itself increase. Now, I don't want to read too far into this, but this watching itself increase is sort of, it kind of lingers for me. Of course, go in the bar and more people are going to join you in the bar. And you're going to find as more people join you in the bar that you're not the only one um, who has sort of either resigned themselves or found themselves automatically moving towards this sort of ritual. That is, instead of the pursuit of these bigger things, go to the bar, watch the game, enjoy the highs, the lows, get upset, throw the bottles, enjoy sort of like the full range of human experience in this bar, because you're not going to find these things. And by virtue of watching the clientele increase around you, that is like the people joining the bar, realize that other people, again, either consciously or unconsciously, are going to make the same decision. But at the same time, I also see in that last lingering line, watching itself increase, this idea that all of humanity, in lieu of these bigger existential ideas or the opportunity to be delivered by something like the Holy Grail or the pursuit of capital S science or outer space, however you want to say it, um, we as a species seem to even resign ourselves to just growth, which of course it seems like we're biologically predisposed to do. Um, but again, seems there's something haunting in man's voice that we would want to aspire to more. Okay, that's that's the Terminal Bar by Derek Mann. I think I'm gonna do the disused or a disused shed in County Wexford next, but I think I'll do that as a separate video. Awesome, thank you.